Yeah, man. So we back in the club with our bodies rocking from side to side, side to side. Thank God the week is done. I feel like a zombie gone back to life, back to life. Hands up, yeah, suddenly we all got our hands up. No control of my body. Ain't I seen you before? I think I remember those eyes, 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 eyes. 'Cause baby tonight, the DJ got us falling in love again. Yeah, baby tonight, the DJ got us falling in love again. So dance, dance like it's the last night of your life. Life won't get you right. 'Cause baby tonight, the DJ got us falling in love again. Keep down and drinks like there's no tomorrow. That's just right now, 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 now. Gonna set the roof on fire. Gonna burn this motherfucker down, 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 down. Come on, hands up. When the music drops, we both put our hands up. Put your hands on my body. Swear I've seen you before. I think I remember those eyes, 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 eyes. 'Cause baby tonight, the DJ got us falling in love again. Yeah, baby tonight, the DJ got us falling in love again. So dance, dance like it's the last night of your life. Life won't get you right. 'Cause baby tonight, the DJ got us falling in love again.
Awesome, don't lie. Hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. Get it, baby, hope you catch that like T.O. That's how we roll. My life is a movie and you just TiVo. Mommy got me twisted like a dreadlock. She don't wrestle, but I got her in a headlock. Never do make a bedrock. Mommy on fire, red hot. Bada bing, bada boom. Mr. Worldwide as I step in the room. I'm a hustler, baby, but that you knew. And tonight is just me and you, darling.
The DJ got us falling in love again.
Let's take over
Yeah,
the world.
baby tonight, the DJ got us falling in love. Let go, falling in love. Oh, so dance, dance like it's the last night of your life. Life won't get you right. 'Cause baby tonight, the DJ got us falling in love again. Yeah, baby tonight, somebody get DJ got us falling in love again. Get your hands up, come on. So dance, dance like it's the last night of your life. Life won't get you right. 'Cause baby tonight, the DJ got us falling in love again. Yeah, thank you, DJ.